Well, John, sorry, it was a little technical problem. Apparently my memory card can just take 9 minutes, so well, it's gonna be 9 minutes then. Well, I'm just gonna go on. No official peak season, no official off season, like I said. And competition can be and are played just about every week of the year, so it's kind of a busy schedule, but it's not really with a peak. So there's not really a peak season, which is quite hard to build a periodization without a peak. But of course, every season, year season has a little peak. So even boys season has a peak as well. Well, there's like a German competition, which is the most important. So we try to build on that peak. Also important to mention is that this season is the emphasis is on training. So we talked about this with the coach, and normally it would be with a few peaks, like 6 peaks a year. But this year it's more about training, not really about the big competitions. So it will be a little bit flat, but that's why we try to use this little peak to be a big peak. Okay, like I said. Periodization. What is periodization? Well, you said in one of your colleagues, periodization is a long-term planned variation of frequency, intensity, duration, and type of training in order to optimize performance and prevent overtraining in a given period. So you're actually trying to balance between overtraining and just the perfect load and intensity and so on. It's actually quite good. There's a lot of different explanations of periodization, but this is a good one because actually the fit principle is fitted in, the frequency, intensity, time. It's all in there. Advice, training goals. The training goals mentioned here, enhancing maintains of agility, which is about agility, of course, of the athlete during the season due to training program. We're going to talk about training program later. At the end of the peak season, the hit percentage of the first service is increased with 5% when using imagery compared to the score measured prior to the preseason. So it's going to be imagery used on the service, how you can measure. But we're gonna talk about all this later. Implementation phase: a boy should set one and reach one performance goal and one outcome goal, one in practice and one in competition. Well, the next step is to actually enhance the performance. We asked ourselves the question like, is this those 3 aspects, are they trainable and how? And did boy get any training in this, like the training history? Because if you try to train on agility for a year and nothing is enhancing, so you're probably better off quitting. So that's why. When to implement and when to start. It's more about periodization is a very main thing, and on what intensity, how often, how long, volume and duration. It's all in there. This is our macro year schedule. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, as you can see, we found some literature about the from the ITF. There's a good presentation about tenors and periodization and training. In 2009, the ITF International Tennis Federation, they set some general objectives of objectives about every phase of the season, and then they stated some guidelines in amount of time spent on each component. Components are rest, practice, physical training, competition, competitive match play. So well, you can see that in this graph, and they stated some characteristics per phase. So the first phase is, for example, more aerobic against the second pre-competition phase, and we have more anaerobic in speed and power. And the first, the pre-season is high volume and lower intensity, which is the other way around in the pre-competition phase. So you can see this. We can see this later as well. Well, those guidelines in sports, you can see them as this as well, like the pre-season, season, in-season, the peak, which is the competition phase, and the active rest phase. Well, you have to note that this is not any intensity. This is just 100% of amount of time spent. Intensity, we're gonna go into that later. Well, if we look at this graph, the intensity is shown to as building up towards the peak. It's building up, and the volume is increasing, like we saw before in the year schedule. This is a model of Medvedev, which is conducted again in 1991. It's still using in a lot of articles, and we saw it in your college as well. Also, we're gonna go into that later. This is how I draw. I'm sorry about the graphics, but I had to do a bit quick. This is about you can see the increase in intensity. This is not really about volume, but this is, how can I say that? This is like intensity on a scale multiplied by the duration. So then you get a score from 1 to 5, and this is based on a heart rate. So you're gonna see a build up in every season, and then you see the active rest phase. You gotta build down actually, which is based on Foster's 5 zones, different zones, which is zone 1 is like 50 to 60% of heart rate max, up to zone 5, which is very high, which is going to be 90% of maximum heart rate. Well, you got some things to increase the load in volume, intensity, and complexity. In volume, you can do more reps, more series, more drills. That's more time of training. That's some things. The intensity, you can do more drills, more rhythms, reduce recovery time, for example. The time between series and stuff. Complexity, of course, you can play with that, like more shots, more distance covered, more variations in shots. Not doing just forehand, but doing like a really competitive exercise. Then, of course, the monitoring. The monitoring of training load. We saw an article of Edwards, which was called monitoring training load in elite tennis. So we monitored by multiplying the session rate of perceived exertion by the duration of the match. So you get a score about, I can't say a normal score, but it's on the 6 to 20 RPE scale, the rate of perceived exertion, and of course the duration is in minutes. Then you can monitor the training load, which is actually from Edwards. That is the article who found this, and the scale is based on Borg, which I didn't mention here, I'm sorry. The rate of perceived exertion is actually just an answer on a question like how is your training. They have a rate from 6 to 20, and it's actually based on heart rate as well. So if you multiply it by 10 and it starts with 6, well, it's actually no load. And if you start with 20, then it's going to be big load because you get over 200 heartbeats per minute.